Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric, and our continuing series where I review every Capcom CPS, CP System Dash, CPS 2, and CPS 3 game ever made. And today we're taking a look at JoJo's Venture, also known as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in Japan. This is the first game in the series. There is a re-release of this as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Heritage for the Future, that kind of expands on the original game, and I'm going to be doing this as a two-parter. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down there as well. But JoJo's Venture is a really weird fighting game, mostly for the content. This game reminds me a lot of Matra Melee on the Neo Geo AES and Power Instinct 5 that came out on the Taito Type X in like 2006. It's a super competent, super fun fighting game. What I love about it the most is just the bizarre nature of the entire experience, and I'm kind of partial to liking things like that. We've talked about Matra Melee on the channel. I'll be talking about Power Instinct 5 in the future. Maybe I already have, I'm not sure of the schedule, but I really love the absurdity of these type of fighting games. And you'll see here, everything's set up kind of like a manga in the character selection screen. Now, there is an entire backstory to JoJo. It's an anime, it's a manga. I am not familiar with any of that. The only reason I know about JoJo as a series is because of the Capcom CPS III fighting game. So as far as the backstory is concerned, I'm not sure what's going on, but you do get a lot of story in this game. Probably the most story of any Capcom arcade fighting game that they ever put out. But getting right into it, I absolutely love the game itself. It's visually beautiful, the soundtrack is great, the fighting is super competent, everything that you want in a fighting game is here. And my favorite part is it doesn't feel like Street Fighter as far as Capcom's concerned, because they loved making fighting games. Obviously they made a ton of Street Fighters. And it's never been my favorite series, so having something different from them is definitely to my liking. And I appreciate the fact that it is 2 rounds, but it doesn't fade out in between matches. It goes straight into the next match, which really reminds me of something like Matra Melee. But you'll see here, the entire game features this stand setup, and you'll see that the character I'm facing has a secondary character out on the screen, and each individual character has their own stand that you can take out with a dedicated button, so it really changes the gameplay up a ton. But it's a super combo and special move heavy game, and I do appreciate that because the specials aren't that difficult to pull off. I always have issues with Street Fighter type inputs pulling off the special moves consistently, but in JoJo's Venture I have absolutely none of those issues whatsoever, and I was able to easily win that first match. So when the CPS 3 came out, everyone was really excited about the graphical fidelity of it. And I would say these are obviously games that are better than what could be done on CPS 2, but CPS 3 wasn't the revelatory hardware platform that I think people were really hoping for. Obviously 2D sprite work does look amazing, and there's tons of frames of animation in each character, but the backgrounds in some of these stages are relatively static. And this isn't a review of the CPS 3, but it is not a board that I own because these games are all really fun, but there were only 6 games released on the system, and they're all fighting games, and original CPS 3 hardware is insanely delicate. The security cart will suicide itself if you drop it, if you tap it the wrong way, if you even so much as check power on the JAMA Edge. Supposedly that's enough to trigger the tamper warning and the game will suicide itself. There is the Darksoft multi, but that, honestly, it's a great device, but to get a multi of the CPS 3, you're talking around $1,000. To me, it's just not worth it. But right back into the content of the game. The AI is a little bit funny. Sometimes they run away like this, sometimes they stand in the corner and hide, and sometimes they put on a full-on assault. JoJo's Venture is the type of fighting game that 100% comes alive when you're playing with another character, especially if that person knows what they're doing. If you have a 2-player match, crack open a beer, it's a really fun time. But as far as the AI is concerned, it's hit or miss. Honestly, the best way to play this game is the Dreamcast version. It's arcade perfect on there. This was remade and put on modern consoles, but at least according to the internet, it's been delisted and removed, so it's really not easy to get a hold of this game. I am emulating this on Final Burn Neo, and it works perfectly fine, but I do have my Dreamcast version in my cabinet as well. So either emulate it or honestly play it on Dreamcast if you have the opportunity. But the presentation of JoJo's Venture is really where the game just absolutely shines. It's strange, it's quirky, Right now we're going to be fighting Chaka, a dog, and he has a stand that looks like a much larger beast. And like I said, I don't know much about Jojo, but I do know when you're fighting a dog in a fighting game, that's kind of funny. And again, reminds me of Match Melee. Poochie, you fight a dog in that game as well. But the soundtrack's also spectacular. It's one of my favorite parts of JoJo's Adventure. So go ahead and listen for the next 30 to 45 seconds, and I'll come back and tell you more about why, if you've never played this game, at the minimum, you should play it for the sheer absurdity. But be right back. I mean, you can't go wrong with that soundtrack. It is one of my favorite parts of the game. And you'll see that it's pushing around a ton of huge sprites. As those cars come up out of the ground, that's definitely something that the CPS II probably wasn't capable of. And you will see a little bit of scaling in the arenas as well, and that was heavily marketed for the CPS III. But honestly, the Neo Geo MVS and AES was already doing that, so scaling in the arena wasn't the biggest thing in the world. But honestly, that's just kind of a little nitpick there. I do love the CPS III games. It's just one of those things that I've never been super inclined to collect for the platform, mostly just due to the expense and the really limited roster of games that are available. But at least you do get awesome games like JoJo's Adventure, because the characters are really fun, and I love the special moves, the animation. Everything about the fighting is fluid, it's fast-paced without feeling too fast where you think things are just happening without you even realizing it. And every character has their own unique play style. That special is really hard to hit there. I miss it like 9 out of 10 times. You really have to time it up well. But that's the great thing about this game, is it's different than Street Fighter. And don't get me wrong, I don't dislike Street Fighter as a series, but it's definitely not my favorite. I like that Capcom made something that felt unique and different compared to what they were used to. I'm not sure how this game did in America. I mean, obviously this is going to be way more focused towards a Japanese audience just because of the anime and manga elements to it, which aren't as big in the US. But either way you slice it, it's really fun to have something like this from Capcom, because right now all they do is really give us more Street Fighter re-releases, which is fine, I don't mind that, but I miss this era of Capcom trying new things. But like I said, you get so many different screens and elements in here. Everything looks amazing, and that's what I think the takeaway for this game is. It's definitely not the best fighting game ever made. I'd like to play something like Fist of the North Star over JoJo's Adventure, but visually, presentation-wise, soundtrack-wise, gameplay-wise, it's a super fun and unique game. If you're into things like Match Melee, if you play things like Waku Waku 7, this is going to be a type of game that you're really going to enjoy. And again, just fighting a dog, it's the most absurd thing ever, but it just works in the universe that the game's presenting, and I think that's the best part about this. Now I will say, next week when we cover JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the sequel slash enhanced version of this game, that is 100% the version I recommend. I'm showing both of these just because I want to do it complete and I'm reviewing everything, but honestly, if you're going to play one of these games, then I would definitely play JoJo's Bizarre Adventure versus the original game. Or you know what, just play both. That's the thing, these games aren't hard to run, they're not hard to find, however you want to play them you absolutely can. But it's nice to see Capcom doing something different, and I love a fighting game franchise that isn't the norm. I mean, of course we get, Tekken, Street Fighters, Virtual Fighters, things like that, but as far as 2D is concerned, I like that in the 90s we were getting brand new franchises that we had never really seen in fighting games before. But yeah, short of that, that is JoJo's Adventure. It's a really weird, quirky fighting game that I 100% recommend, but like I said, if you're going to play one of the two games, play the game that I show you guys next week. Short of that, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, chatting with you guys. Tell me if you played this game before and if you like it. I was finally able to land that special attack, and I do love all the artwork that goes on with that. Short of that, do me a huge favor, hit like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.